truly shocking tale. The English tech tycoon Mike Lynch and his 18-year-old daughter are among 6 tourists missing after his luxury yacht sank in a tornado off the coast of Sicily in the early hours of yesterday morning.
Well, the British-registered 56-metre Bayesian had 22 people on board when it went down after being struck by a tornado. A body, believed to be that of the vessel's chef, has been recovered.
Well, divers are now combing the waters as search efforts continue around the wreck. So far, 15 people have been rescued, including the wife of Mike Lynch and a 1-year-old baby girl.
Well, we're joined now by Matthew Shank, chairperson of the Maritime Search and Rescue Council. Very good to see you this morning, Matthew. And such a shocking story. It's actually hard to believe.
Yes, good morning. It really is. It's sort of unprecedented, really, to have a vessel of that size being certified and commercially operated to suffer such a significant event, really, in weather that was pretty severe by all accounts, but should have been within the limits of the vessel itself.
In itself, it is shocking because this is a vessel that has crossed the Atlantic multiple times. It is designed to withstand all sorts of weather and also to be inhabited permanently by a crew. For it to have been sunk in this way, there's some speculation that it could be linked to the size of the vessel's mast, believed to be either the tallest in the world or I think maybe the second tallest. What do you think about some of that, and why would that play a part in it if it is the cause?
Yeah, so there's numerous theories at the moment, and obviously there will be investigations carried out by the Marine Accident Investigation Branch from the UK, but also the Italian authorities. But it's important to look at the vessel type in itself. So the vessel is obviously a sailing vessel, which means it has quite a lot of masts and other devices on board the vessel, which are particularly high. As you said, the mast is either the second highest or the highest in the world. When there's wind and weather, this basically acts almost like a sail in itself. So if it catches the wind, and that can cause the vessel to heel over, to lean over, and affect the stability of the vessel. But again, it's important to note that as a sailing vessel, they'll be designed to deal with these forces that act upon it. But it is important to note that windage area that's provided by the mast is affected when there are strong winds.
Matthew, can you tell us a little bit about your understanding of the conditions in the sea around Palermo in the days before the sinking? Because we're hearing about this water spout, aren't we? Is that something that you would see regularly in the seas in the Mediterranean?
No, I mean, a water spout is pretty rare. They do happen, and they do happen in that area. But again, these aren't weather events that would be predictable. They can be sort of expected in certain areas, but they are rare. Now, the weather forecast on the night was nothing that would have caused any concern to the master, to the captain. There were warnings for thunderstorms, etc., but the proof is sort of in the pudding. If you look at the anchorage, the vessel wasn't the only vessel in the anchorage, and the other vessels in the vicinity weathered quite fine throughout the weather event. We don't know whether it was a water spout or whether it was a squall that's come through, but in any case, looking at the CCTV from the area and the impact that's had on the vessel, it was a pretty significant weather event that impacted on them.
Just one of these events in and of themselves would have been newsworthy, but the story of Mike Lynch's life, the fact that he went on, well, he started out and became this huge tech tycoon, Britain's answer to Bill Gates. He advised the government on early stages of AI, sold his company for a huge amount of money, then found himself in a big legal battle, won in a sort of David and Goliath 12-year fight with the Americans against all the odds, totally vindicated, and then this freak accident happens.
Yeah, and his daughter being one of those missing. An 18-year-old daughter called Hannah had just got into Oxford University, had literally just passed her A-levels. I mean, you can't make this story up. So they are missing alongside 4 other people. James Price joins us now. He's former Chief of Staff to Nadhim Zahawi. We're going to be talking about Sir Keir Starmer in Wales, but we have to get your reaction to this story because it's on the front of all of the newspapers this morning. It's the stuff of nightmares, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right. And where do you even begin? As you say, the story, I mean, it's so film-worthy. And hopefully, that if it does ever get turned into a movie, it will have a happy ending and there will be some resolution to this, although I fear that maybe we shouldn't get our hopes up on it. I mean, the big crux of a lot of this was that having sold his company in 2011, I think it was, Autonomy, to HP, or Hewlett-Packard, known to most people as the sort of printer makers you may have in the corner of your home, this horrendous legal battle that all went down, and it did. You just talked about myself getting engaged to an American. It sort of rocked a special relationship to some extent. It is a sort of imbalance in extradition treaties that it says in the United Kingdom must extradite people to the US, but the US only may extradite people back again. And
Well, we
it's almost a case
famously
of
tried to
bullying.
get Anne Secoulis over, didn't we? And they were absolutely point blank refused.
Exactly
and yet,
right.
when we wanted to try and support Mike Lynch in this, it wasn't the case. We weren't able.
Exactly right, and it's this kind of awful kind of corporate raider attempts that he managed to outplay these guys, and then the effect of big corporations on the US legal system. America's a great country, but we should be very grateful that we have the kind of legal system, perhaps, that we have here domestically.
Yeah, I read 97% of cases that are brought to court in these sorts of cases are lost by the defendant. So he was in that 3% that was.
And he said, doesn't he, in that one very rare interview that he did this summer with British press, he said the only reason that I was acquitted is because I am so wealthy.
Yeah, I've got
admitted
friends
that.
who worked on this case, and it is just absolutely extraordinary. And the kind of David versus Goliath thing, and then he says, I'm going to spend the rest of my life and my fortune trying to fight against these kind of injustices, just as soon as I have a nice holiday, and this has happened.
Well, and on that ship, he invited his lawyers, his colleagues who'd supported him, and indeed his family for personal. He said that he couldn't wait not only to get back to his country, to get back to work because he was this huge brain, and to spend time with his family because he was a real family man. It's heartbreaking.
No, and he was
truly
looking,
heartbreaking.
he was looking forward to this second life, wasn't he? And he wanted to get back to innovation. And it was this celebration, wasn't it, of his acquittal, of this second life. And look what's happened.
Well, let's not also forget that Stephen Chamberlain, his co-defendant in the whole case, died tragically just on Saturday gone.
Yeah.
Good morning, Jim. Good morning,
ladies.
This certainly seems to be a freak weather incident that happened. These water spouts, or tornadoes, if you want to call it that, do occur in the Mediterranean from time to time.
Yes, they do.
Particularly around the Aegean. But later in the season, normally, is my understanding. So what's happened here? What on earth's happened here off the coast of Sicily?
So you're right to mention that these things do happen. So this is not something that has never happened before. It does happen. You're right to mention it's early in the season, and there's a reason behind that, potentially anyway, and that is the Mediterranean Sea a few days ago reached its medium high level, record level, 28.15 degrees C. It's like getting into a bath. That results in the energy that you need for these things to be catastrophic. In other words, for events such as, for example, just a little bit further north the day before in Vienna, the severe flooding there as well. This is all about energy. It's all about energy from the ocean. So if you put a pan of water, a pan of milk on a stove, and you turn the heat up, and then you turn it up a bit more, that releases the energy into the liquid.
Exactly. Humidity, which causes.
And then what you need is you need another catalyst, which would be low pressure area. So instability, unstable airstream. That's exactly what was in place at this time. I've got to say, there is an element of luck, and in this case, bad luck for this particular yacht. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time. It could have gone left, it could have gone right, but actually probably like a train went straight through them, and there's your tragedy
Jim, was this in any way predictable? Should the crew have been out on the water in these sorts of conditions, or do they strike?
Such a good question. You know what? There'd been no meteorologist on that ship without a question. As an XRN meteorologist travelling the seas and knowing that from time to time you come up against these sort of things. What I would say is that there should have been a little bit of, let's just say, thought pattern to say that we were in an unstable atmosphere. There was potentially thunderstorms, lightning, this type of thing. So ships in harbour. Remember, this is still at sea. Harbour is in sea, not in the port itself. So you're at sea. So you are at the mercy of the elements, very much so. And when it comes to this sort of situation, we are very small. Make it absolutely clear whether we're talking climate change, or weather. And in fact, it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, as we've just seen the Times headline this morning, millionaires in yacht tragedy. That matters not. it really matters not. You can't eat money, and therefore, when it comes to it, Mother Nature is far, far stronger. So, I think in this case, yeah, it is extremely unlucky, but it would have been like a train going through this particular thing. One thing I will say, though, we talk about these people escaping, surviving. That's how can I put this? There would have been, before this particular, before he actually got struck, there would have been noise. That water spout, as it was, would have made noise in the sea, and they would have heard the rushing, they would have heard the wind getting up, etc. So it probably roused people out of bed.
Yeah, there were reports that people were awake, were worrying about things smashing.
Yeah, exactly.
We're hearing water being...
And isn't that lucky? Because without that, a direct hit, without any noise, without knowing about it, probably would have sank, not just the ship, but everybody on it, and there'd have been no survivors.
And the proximity to civilization, I suppose, rather than being out at a remote island somewhere, meant that the rescue could be very swift. And the fact that there was a mother trying to tread water with a baby that couldn't swim, well, you can't do that for a long period of time. But she was able to safely escape because it was a quick rescue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these sort of cases, I've got to say to you, they're not. They're not everyday occurrences. Make that absolutely clear. But what is going on a wider scale, on a global scale, if it's not this sort of tragic incident, it's other incidents that are going on, such as the flooding I mentioned in Vienna, such as what's happening left, right, and centre. I know we don't always have our eyes on it. This is the thing. I know, for example, today there are 10 storm warnings for the 10 regions that have got storm warnings in Italy. So when you talk about was there a warning, well, probably there was. But what do you do about that? Do you pull in? Do you pull out? These things do happen out of the blue, literally out of the blue. And as I say, sometimes you can be unlucky. But we've always got to be aware in this changing environment that we're now in. Climate change is making things more and more obvious in terms of what's going on in tragedies that can occur. So we just have to have our eyes and have our focus and do the right things.
OK, Jim Dale, good to see you. Thank you.
And you, thank you.